New logo, boys.
Love it.
Let's try it this way. 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 I don't understand why it does that now. It's so friggin' annoying.
Going outside, just like I like it.
Pretty big fish to fry. Pretty big fish to fry. My, my. Pretty big fish to fry. Pretty big fish to fry. My. Last weekend I barely thought I'd make it out alive. Told myself I'd take some time and give some love a try. I was alive. My.
Oh, everybody. It is Wednesday, September the 6th, 2017. You're checking out the premier sports and beer podcast coming to you from all over this great nation, formerly the Turn 2 podcast. Welcome to the first edition of Low and Outside. We're going to keep rocking the episode 54 tag because episode 1 sounds very sad, so we're gonna avoid that. But we're gonna have the same fun things, maybe a little bit more. You can check us out lowanoutside.com. Let's get started, shall we?
Why don't you go back home to your street malls and drink your Zimas and Smirnoff Ices? Oh yeah! The greatest beer in all the world!
Somebody from the bar.
Yeah, I like cool beverage, yeah. I like cool beverage, yeah. I like cool beverage, yeah. Cause I'm feeling kind of bored. Stick it in the fridge, stick it in the fridge, stick it in the fridge, stick it in the fridge.
All right, it's drinking time. I am polishing off a Sweetwater Sampler, I feel like Nikki, that I got from my buddy Dave. This one is a triple tail. It is a tropical India pale ale. checking in at about 5.5. Not so bad. JP checking in. Apparently, he's in a call center somewhere in India with all the phones ringing in his background. JP, are you there, pal?
Yes, I am.
Are you drinking anything, or are you just answering phones?
I am drinking a Omegang Nirvana IPA.
All right, good. Now mute yourself so I don't have to listen to this all in the background. Parsippany, Nikki, what do you got?
Got some Heavy Seas Brewery coming at you. Loose Cannon, Hop 3 IPA. Very smooth.
You were down there this last weekend, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Posted from the location.
Good stuff. Good stuff. The Whip, Paulie.
What is going on, fellas? I have a Magnify because Brett's not here tonight. I'm just rocking Magnify again. I got the Punch.
It's an IPA though, right?
Yeah, it's an IPA. It's brewed with this different kind of hops. It's supposed to taste like Hawaiian Punch, but it's very faint. Very faint.
Okay. And everybody's favorite game, Coors Light or Miller's Light from Chicago. Sean.
Was that a Miller's Light?
It was.
It's plural.
You know, Jeff, it's a new show. While we're taking borrowed equity from the previous one,
right.
I decided to change it up tonight.
Good.
With a Leinenkugel's Summer Shandy. Summer's winding down. Why not just get a cold, refreshing summer shandy?
Clearing out the fridge.
Just kidding. Hold on. There's a Miller Lite for you.
You gonna shotgun that?
Why would you want to ruin the smooth, fresh tasting Miller Lite by shotgunning it? That would
crisp. It's crisp.
It's a fine Pilsner.
That's
right. Hey, but good to know we have tech support on the line. JP, welcome.
Customer service.
In case something goes wrong, I'm like, my name is JP. I am in Lincoln Park. How are you?
And good evening,
let's
everybody.
try this one.
And despite the fact that I have just knocked a cup of coffee in my lap and a suit that's just out of the cleaners, it's great to be home.
And his first pitch to D. Gordon is almost on the kneecaps for ball one. D just did get out of the way.
It's the first pitch.
So you can't let the opportunity to play Vin Scully and do a first pitch go by the wayside when one of the bigger sports, especially in this part of the country, the New Jersey, New York area, is that the Red Sox were found guilty of stealing signs and conveying signs through an Apple Watch, it appears, something that is definitely against the rules. I want to give my 2 cents and then throw it out very quickly before we move on. I think it's insane that something like the Apple Watch or an iPad or an iPhone is barred in the dugout, considering some of these new stadiums, if you turn a corner in a dugout, you are suddenly looking at a monitor, and that's totally okay. But if you're in an antiquated stadium like Fenway or Wrigley, you have to sometimes walk down an entire corridor to get there. I think it's unfair. And I think what they did was obviously breaking the rules, but I think it's time that baseball welcomes themselves into the 21st century and starts allowing some of this technology and maybe mandating some of it in the dugouts, considering the new technologies in stadiums puts certain home field advantages in a completely different perspective. I'm going to throw it to Paulie first to take whatever your input is on it.
I mean, technology in the dugout, yeah, I understand that, but using it to steal signs, I mean, I know stealing signs goes on. Every team does it. Every team does it all the time. It was just using the technology, which is against the rules, but it's kind of dumb. I mean, baseball's so antiquated that you have to use like a rotary phone to fucking call in your relief pitcher. I mean, I don't know why they're not updating that, but like you said, they need to kind of go with the times, understand that the technology is there. Instead of Joe Girardi writing his freaking bench players on a piece of paper every day, you can just have a tablet. I don't see why baseball is so hesitant to change.
But you look at this particular scenario as cheating, not gamesmanship.
I mean, it's cheating in the fact that you're not allowed the technology in the dugout. So they broke a rule, which I guess makes it cheating, but I don't really have a problem with it. I think it's overblown.
Okay. Nick?
I mean, it's cheating. It's black and white. I mean, you're breaking the rule. What I find embarrassing is the fact that they had to get caught with technology in order to try to steal signs, and it obviously didn't help because they have a losing record against the Yankees. So I just think it's a little more embarrassing than anything else that you have to go to these lengths to try to steal signs when it obviously didn't really help you much.
Well, that's assuming that they only did it against the Yankees, which is definitely not the case.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's embarrassing that you have to go to those lengths to steal signs when everyone's been doing it for years, through natural ways.
So you don't have a problem with the stealing of the signs. You just have a problem that they're using the technology to do so?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Okay. Sean?
You agree with your own statement?
Agree with Jeff just said.
I agree. What I just said, I agree with. It was an excellent point.
I have 2 points.
Good.
One, if hacks first brought us the fappening and now they brought us this, I'm totally cool with this continuing on. 2, I don't understand how this is any different than steroid conversation in baseball, right? Like, everyone's doing these things. Why don't they just make it legal, and then we could have a lot of fun?
And then it becomes like, who has the best IT department?
Yeah, sure. No, look, it happens. I would put this under who cares. It doesn't bother me. Everyone does it. Whether it's through an iPhone or something else, who cares?
All right, good point. JP, anything you want to weigh in on?
I'm with Sean on this. Who cares?
On the fappening or the
on the sign stealing? Who cares?
Just had to check.
JP, don't waste this opportunity without Yampo here tonight to mimic him as much as you want.
Whatever, Yampo.
I might have to take you up on that one. I might.
All right, so it is the opening week for the National Football League. The league opens tomorrow night. Right, tomorrow night we've got who is it? New England, Kansas City. Am I right on that? Somebody.
Yep, that is correct.
So we would not be a sports and beer podcast if we did not discuss how we think this year is going to go. So what I think I'd like to do before we give our predictions on who's going to win each division is just ask a couple of questions and kind of talk a little bit about it. We got a big AFC East contingent here on this show, and JP, you're holding down the NFC East. Sean has respectfully declined to take part in this conversation, but you feel free to jump in wherever you find lunacy, Sean. Let's start with the obvious one that we seem to be having asked for the last 20 years, if not every year, off and on. What are the Patriots' chances to repeat all?
I mean, you got to look at them that they're coming out of the East, right? Because the other 3 teams in the AFC East are pretty much a pile of steaming dog crap. So, I mean, I don't see a difficult road for them to come out of the AFC. I mean, you look at maybe Pittsburgh being the toughest challenge for them, and I think the Patriots just have too much offensive firepower, even without Edelman.
Okay, so I don't think it's maybe Nick will have this argument. You're certainly not going to get an argument from me that the AFC East is a pile of shit, but you think that they're actually head and shoulders above everybody in the AFC, with Pittsburgh being the only one that can stand maybe toe-to-toe with them?
I mean, Pittsburgh, maybe you look at Oakland. You don't really know what Carr is going to give you coming back from injury. Kansas City's always a tough place to play, so we'll see what they put together, but I mean, I don't really see anyone that's going to really challenge them. I think they go back to the Super Bowl.
Okay. Nick, thoughts on do the Pats repeat? Not can they, do they repeat?
I don't think they do. I mean, I don't even pick them to come out of the AFC. I think they'll lose to the Steelers in the AFC title game just because I think over the last however many years it's been pretty much Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, Tom Brady representing the AFC.
Peyton Manning.
Yeah, I don't think that changes. I just think that it just changes to a different person. I think it's Roethlisberger's turn this year. I think they're going to come back healthy. Brown, Bell, and Roethlisberger get 16 games together. I think they'll wind up going to the Super Bowl.
All right, so we got 2 guys that think that the Pats do not repeat. You don't even think they get to the game.
They'll lose in the AFC title game, I see.
Okay. JP, do you have a take on the Pats?
I think the Pats will walk through the AFC East. I don't think there's anything there that can stop them, and I'm pretty sure my friends who watch AFC East football are pretty much will be in agreement with me on that.
No, I'm not.
Of course, not you, man. I know my Jet fans are with me on that, but I don't know. Like, the Raiders are intriguing to me. I think the Raiders. I think exactly what Paul said. The Raiders and the Steelers are probably their best competition. The Raiders really intrigue me. It all depends on, like I said, it all depends. Or like Paul said, it all depends on what happens at the quarterback position there. If he can come back from injury and do really well, then I think that they can surprise a few teams this year.
So I missed what you said. Do you have them or not have them coming out of the AFC?
I have them coming out. I think they'll make the Super Bowl. Absolutely.
So, Nick, I would love for you to be right, but I just don't see it happening. I think the Pats, they walk through the division. They probably walk through the regular season, and then a team like the Steelers, a team like depending on what Carr gives you, Oakland could be a little bit of a threat. But Anthony had checked in with me earlier in the day, and he wanted to play a little game. I don't think he can join us tonight, but he wanted to play a little game. What was easier to find, a loss in the Patriots schedule or a win in the Jets schedule?
I think they're both equally as likely. I was looking at both schedules, and I mean the Jets play home against Jacksonville, and then they play home against Buffalo, which I think are two games they could definitely win. And New England has to go at Denver and at Miami, and Tom Brady has a losing record in Miami and in Denver. Fact.
I know I abstained, but like the fact that you're even looking at schedules is the most ridiculous thing ever in that conversation.
To be fair, we teed that up. I just think it's funny that you are still clinging to this they're going to split with Dolphins nonsense.
Why is that nonsense? 2013, 2014, 2015, they've split. He has a losing record in Miami in his career. That's a fact.
Listen, your team is the reason why next week I have to drink a Mad Dog on air. That's all.
Well, no, not next week. Yeah, next week, not this week.
No, next week. Next week. After he's done it, I have to do it.
I think we brew that, Jeff.
Do you really?
Well, Jeff, Miami's not playing this weekend.
Oh, good point. So I got two. I have a little stay of execution.
Fucking Irma.
I gotta ask you that question because I think it's ridiculously unfair, right? Like,
well, I know what you're gonna say. I think it's more unfair to the fact that they have to play 16 straight games, and that includes a trip to London. And the people were talking about the NFL should give that game back to Miami because it's a home game for them and let them stay in Miami. But the NFL is not going to do that, obviously. But they have to go 16 straight games along with the Bucs to kind of finish out the season. I think that's going to be a problem.
How did they not play that at a neutral site?
The NFL did not want to do that. I don't know why, but I think it was more of they wanted to keep the players and coaches in their communities with their families and not have to make them go across the country, let's say, to play a game while their families are stuck home in the hurricane, I guess. I don't know.
It's a Miami home game, right?
Yeah. But the whole state's going to be kind of destroyed, I think.
Yeah, I just didn't know exactly where it was. If that was my situation, if that was my team, I'd be pissed.
Here we go.
You have to wonder if the NFL can get creative with their scheduling and kind of like not build in a bye week, but kind of maybe shift it around to like a Thursday game. So these guys get like a long week at least somewhere along the line. Because, 16 straight games is just brutal.
Well, they do have the flex scheduling, right? So they could, in theory, do that. But Miami's going to be dog shit. I don't know if they're going to do that. And I don't know that Tampa's playing, in my opinion, in one of, if not the toughest divisions in football.
All right, I'm going to start it.
And Yampo checking in from his fantasy draft.
This is JP, actually. This is JP. I'm doing the fantasy draft right now. I'm really excited. Anthony, you owe me $50, you jerk off.
Jeff, you got that mute button?
Hey, Sean, I love you. Good meeting you.
All right.
Wasn't reciprocated.
Thank God he checked out there. Anthony, we briefly, thanks for joining a little bit late, but we briefly played your game. Who's got a better, where can you find the win or the loss between the Pats schedule and the Jets schedule? Nick thinks he found two for both, so that's good.
I think Nick's nuts.
Okay.
Let me guess. Nick thinks the Dolphins are going to somehow beat the Patriots.
Yes,
somehow. You guys are actually delusional
because he has a losing record in Miami.
That's a fact. That's actually a fact. So you could mock me all you want, but At the end of the day,
Chad Pennington has a winning record career against the Patriots too, you douche.
No, you keep Chad Pennington out of your mouth. Chad Pennington is a saint.
Wow.
And not New Orleans kind. What do you think, Anthony, since you're joining us midway through this particular conversation, do you see any team that's going to take a step forward that maybe from last year, or maybe a team that's going to regress?
Yeah, I think the Bucks are going to take a big step forward. The addition of Deshaun Jackson to their wide receiver core, their team getting a little bit older, good draft picks. I see the Bucks taking a major step up.
Okay. Anybody that you think is gonna slide back? Because historically, what is it? At least like 2 playoff teams from the year prior don't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
At least, yeah.
That's why I put that in there, just to throw that in there.
You know, so
it's hard to say. I mean, there's a lot of teams that could slide back. I mean, obviously the Jets are going to be a hell of a lot worse, which is amazing. But I think that everyone's picking Oakland. I think that they've got a lot of talent, but the quarterback's coming off a big injury, and I'm just not sure they can replicate that same kind of magic. I think they'll still be a playoff team, but I'm not sure that they're a 12-win team that people think they're going to be.
I'm not sure that they were really a 12-win team last year either. Like, I was never really. I mean, I thought they were fun, and we had talked about all year on this show. Brett was like all in on Jack Del Rio last year. We had talked about how it was fun to watch them, take some chances and win some games. But I'm not entirely convinced that they were as good as I know you are what your record says you are, but I'm not entirely convinced that they were that good.
Yeah, I'm not too sure either. But you're right. They were a lot of fun to watch. It was nice seeing their A's win some games again. But they've got a fresh attitude. I just happen to think that Marshawn Lynch is going to have the opposite effect on that team that they're hoping for.
I just never really understood the signing all that much. Like, I don't know what he's going to bring you.
Crotch grabbing.
Skittles.
But Paul, do you think he's going to actually bring anything to the table that they didn't have?
I mean, he gives you like a running back with a track record. I mean, the other guys on the roster are kind of young guys. They're change of pace backs. I mean, he gives you a tough running style. He gets the crowd excited. If you get that nutty freaking black hole crowd excited, I mean, that could be a tough place to play.
That's true.
Because if you're talking about Lynch from 3 years ago, I totally agree, but we don't know what kind of Marshawn Lynch we're going to see. This guy hasn't played in, now it's going to be 19 months. And from there, he's a lot older. So we don't know what kind of, if we're going to see the guy that was in Seattle, yeah, he's going to be fun to watch. But if we're not, then I think that they're going to have a big locker room problem.
But he doesn't need to be that guy from Seattle.
Yeah, I don't think he needs to be.
Because they're not a run-based team where you're trying to work in a young quarterback like Russell Wilson was. I mean, they have Carr, who's established himself. I mean, they got receivers on the outside. So I think he could see some bigger holes, and they have an outstanding offensive line.
That's true.
I know Yampo gets all jacked up about offensive line talk. The Raiders are one of the best offensive lines in the NFL.
Yeah, maybe only second to Dallas at this point.
Jets.
They're in the conversation. All right, let's do this then, because this could take a little bit of time. Let's go through each division, and we're gonna kind of pick the winners. So I know that Nick and Paul have actually populated a spreadsheet. So if you guys want to jump in the conversation, Anthony, JP, and if Sean is conscious, Sean's going to bow out, and that's fine. But if you two guys, because I know you are NFL guys, if you want to jump in the discussion, make sure you have your list of teams up, because we're going to go through the divisions. We're going to start with the AFC least. I'm absolutely taking the Patriots. Nick,
Pats.
The Dolphins,
and Paul,
the Pats.
All right, JP, and then Ant.
Pats.
Patriots.
Okay, so we're across the board with the Patriots. There's Sean, who doesn't watch a lick of the NFL. I think he would take the Patriots too.
Pats all day, baby.
Subbing for Brett there. Patriots.
Shave your head a little.
We're gonna go. I hate that obnoxious bald guy. We're gonna go with the AFC West here. Paul.
Is that Yampo or
who do you got in the AFC West, Paul?
I got Oakland coming out.
Okay, Nick.
Raiders.
JP?
I think it's going to be a dogfight between the Raiders and the Chiefs, but I would go Raiders there.
Okay. Ant?
I'm going to agree. I think it's the Chiefs. The Raiders, rather.
Okay. We're so far there's absolutely no controversy here, so this is boring as hell. The AFC North, Anthony, who do you have coming out of the North?
Out of the North, I'm going to go with Pittsburgh.
Chip?
Pittsburgh.
Nick?
I got the Steelers.
Paul, be the contrarian, please.
Yo, I got Cincinnati coming out. I don't know why. I think Pittsburgh doesn't. I think those three guys don't play 16 games together. I think Bell's holdout. Usually guys come back and pull a hammy, have some kind of leg injury. I see that happening. Go Andy Dalton. I don't know, just to be different.
What is he? The Red Rifle?
Red Rifle.
What is he? I don't even know.
The Red Rocket.
Red Rocket. Red Rocket.
Isn't that a dog's? Never mind.
Sadly, I've got Pittsburgh too. Let's go with the AFC South. Paul?
You know what? I'm going to switch it up.
Okay.
I had Houston down, and I think Houston probably does come out, but I think Tennessee is one of those teams that takes a step forward. I want to see Tennessee. I'm going to say Tennessee takes it.
It'd be nice, right? To watch that quarterback maybe take the next step. That'd be kind of fun.
Absolutely.
Throwing to Eric Decker,
Eric Decker going home to Nashville
and leaving the Jets, which means he's guaranteed to have like a 1,500-yard season. Nikki, who do you got?
I'd like to say Tennessee. I just think Houston has one of the most underrated defenses in the league. They'll probably swarm every team they play in the division and win.
You say underrated defense?
Because everyone talks about Denver or New England. Yeah, but okay.
Never mind. All right, you're good.
Yeah, JJ Watt. Okay. Jip.
I'm gonna go with the fighting Tom Savages and go with Texas as well.
Is Savage starting there, or are they starting the kid?
No, he's starting.
He's starting. Now I don't think he finishes the season, but I definitely think he starts the season.
Okay. Ant, who do you got?
I certainly don't have Tom Savage. Jesus Christmas. What is this guy doing in the league? I'm picking Tennessee. Absolutely Tennessee.
You just hate Rutgers.
Rutgers!
Yeah, how's that plus 40 working for you, asshole?
You totally deserve that, and you know it.
They lost by 15, and JP's like, they did so good.
Let's give him a trophy. Let's give him a trophy.
We're not in college football yet, but we're going to let our college football expert weigh in when that time comes, because they hung with a top-ranked team in the country, who didn't really look all that good from my perspective.
Hung.
I just think it's funny that Yampo's not on, and Nick just assumes the position of dickhead on his phone.
AFC wildcards. Anthony, who you got?
All right. Well, it's certainly not the Dolphins or the Texans. I'm going to go with the Broncos, and I think I'm going to say the Broncos and the Chiefs. I think 3 from the West get in, and 2 of them will have 9-win seasons.
Okay. Nick.
I got Denver and the Titans. I think Denver's defense is going to be the best in the league, and I think Tennessee's going to take that next step forward with the offense.
Okay. Paul?
I got KC and Pittsburgh coming out. I think Pittsburgh's still a good team. I don't think they're going to take the division, but they're good enough to get in. KC is just too good at home to have a bad record. I see them going 9-7, 10-6, getting in.
JP?
I'll go with KC and the Titans.
So this one was tough for me because I've got the Broncos making it, and then it was almost a coin flip for me between Cincinnati and Kansas City. I kind of looked at what Paul was saying to see how good they play. Kansas City plays at home. I just don't. I think there's going to be a quarterback controversy in that town like week 4, and I think it's going to really screw with the way that team gelled last year. I'm going with Cincinnati and the Red Rifleman Rocket, whatever the hell he is, to get them in, and then they'll probably lose in the first round because that's what Marvin Lewis does. The AFC East, the NFC East rather, which is historically one of the toughest divisions in football. I'm not entirely sure it is that this year. Let's go to our resident NFC East expert here, JP. Who do you have here? You're in the stadium every weekend, whether it's a Jet or a Giant game.
Yeah, well, the NFC East, honestly, I think it's going to be decided this week, and the fact that Ezekiel Elliott's playing kind of muddies the waters a little bit for the Giants, but I think it's going to come down to the Giants or the Cowboys. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys pull out the East, to be honest with you.
Okay, so you would if you had to put
if I had to put money on it, I wouldn't put money on it, to be honest with you, because I think it's going to be a really close battle between the Giants and Cowboys. I think the Giants and Cowboys split, and it's going to come down to what they each do with the Eagles and the Redskins.
Okay, but you're taking the Cowboys for this conversation.
And it's not because I don't want to be a homer. It's because I really think that that's what's going to happen, and I think the Giants get in on a wild card.
Okay, Anthony?
I'm going to agree with JP. I think that the Giants will win 10 games, maybe 11. But I think the Cowboys are going to win the division despite not having Elliott for 6 games. They've got some other good backs there that'll be able to fill the void. And I like the Cowboys to win the division, although I do think the Giants will go further in the playoffs.
Let's pump the brakes there on this talk that Elliott's going to miss 6 games. Because I don't think he's going to miss a single fucking game.
Today it was upheld. He's going to miss 6 games, just not week 1, which is the biggest scam NBC
pile of
has ever
shit
pulled.
I've ever seen. Yeah,
except for, if you remember, the whole thing with Brady was upheld too, and what they did was they took it to the courts, and Brady got a stay for the entire year. Zeke's going to play this entire year. He's going to play this entire year because it's the second year of his rookie deal, and then next year it's going to all be upheld, and he's going to have to serve 6 games.
I don't know. I don't agree. I think that the Brady situation and this situation are very different. The NFL stance on domestic violence has been huge. I mean, they basically blackballed Ray Rice, for something similar. And from what the insider reports say, this is a guy who had 6 incidents in this year alone. So
he's not a very good guy.
The NFL can't mess this up. I mean, their image is on the line. They're kind of being very cautious with this. They're investigating Nick's boy Jarvis Landry too. So I think anytime domestic abuse is kind of in the realm of things, I think they're gonna err on the side of punishing the player harshly and then dealing with it later.
I think it wouldn't have been as bad if you didn't have Ray Rice cold cocking his girlfriend on a camera.
Yeah,
I think that completely changed everything.
But the problem is it's out of the league's hands at this point, because if the player takes it to the actual courts, he gets a stay. That's what Brady did. That's the blueprint that the NFLPA is going to follow, and DeMaurice Smith is going to say, Zeke, let's take it to the court and you can play the whole year. I mean, that's just what's going to happen. I mean, the NFL has no control over it at this point if the player chooses to litigate.
That's true. If the player chooses to litigate, then that's correct. However, there are legal side of things that where the NFL can choose to even still suspend the player and then deal with the potential lawsuit that would follow. I think the Brady thing was a media circus, and I think that the NFL for the most part had their fair share of things publicly that weren't handled correctly. I think this would be a disaster for Elliott to pursue if he wants to go at it another year. I think it's just going to keep this issue relevant, and it's going to hurt his career, and it's going to be a stain on DeMaurice Smith, because here's a guy who now is going to be defending someone who is a domestic violence abuser, repeated domestic violence abuser. It's not a good look.
Does anyone know if they nailed Elliott for domestic abuse, or was it just the player conduct policy? Because he had multiple incidents. So
I think it was the player conduct policy that they're suspending him on. I think that the actual domestic violence case was dropped, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if anybody else can confirm that or not, but I'm pretty sure just recently it was dropped. So in the courts, he's clear, and right now he's just dealing with the personal conduct policy of the NFL.
Yeah, JP's right. The charges were dropped by Elliott's girlfriend. Probably some, payoff on the side there. But when you're talking about being an at-will employee in the NFL, you can be suspended or fired for any reason you want.
All right.
So to me, you're talking about what would be a basic wrongful, almost like a wrongful termination suit, except it's, a wrongful suspension suit, if you want to call it that. But I just don't see the NFL backing down on this at all.
Well, time will tell on that.
I agree with you. I agree with you a little bit on that, Jeff. I think time will tell. I kind of agree with both of you. I think he might go this way and he might try and do it, but I think the right thing for him to do is to do what Anthony said. It's just, sit to 6 games, let it go away. You're in the second year of your contract.
You just said the right thing for him to do. The right thing for him to do is to not be a complete scumbag.
Well, obviously,
abuse women. I mean, let's not give this guy the benefit of the doubt at all. I'm done talking about him.
Yeah, please.
The NFC East. The rest of us have the Giants. Paul, Nick, do either of you have a reason why, or do you just think they're the better team?
I have them because I just think that I actually think the Cowboys aren't going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to take a big step back. I think losing Elliott's going to hurt them a lot more than people think, and I think teams are going to start to figure out Prescott a little bit. And I don't think he's going to have a bad year, but he's definitely not going to light it up like he did last year.
Paul,
the Giants' defensive line is freaking phenomenal. I think they're going to pressure the quarterback. I think they're going to stop run. I think the secondary is going to have a big year, and I think the defense just carries them.
Just want to point out when you bring up the Giants' defensive line, the Jets traded Richardson for a bag of balls and a second-round pick. We really couldn't have used Snacks instead of Richardson, right? That was probably a good call.
I think it was the right call.
The NFC West, Paulie, who do you got?
NFC West. God, I have to close the sheet. Who the fuck do I have? Seattle.
Nikki and I both agree with you. Is there any particular reason why?
Again, the defense is phenomenal. They have the quarterback. San Fran and LA suck. Arizona's taken a step back. I don't think they're gonna compete. I think Carson Palmer's overrated.
You just can't trust Carson Palmer, right? I mean that's the basic gist of it. He's a USC
quarterback.
You just can't trust him.
Sean,
it's in his DNA.
Jipper and either of you have any team other than Seattle coming out of the West?
No.
Or could you? No way.
All right. The North. Again, this is so horribly disappointing that
King of the North.
Paul, Nick, and I all have the Packers coming out. Jip, do you have a different team coming out?
No, I have the Packers too.
Anthony,
the Packers.
All right. The South. The South is where we have a little bit of parity. Nick, who do you have coming out of the South?
I have Atlanta repeating the division title. I think their offense is going to still be a juggernaut, and they'll win.
Okay, Paul.
I don't know who'd I take. I got I got Carolina.
Carolina.
I think Atlanta is one of those teams that takes a step back. I think they have the Super Bowl hangover. I think they played a little above their talent level last year. I think they take a step back. I don't even think they make the playoffs.
Who do you got, Ant?
This is the best division in football. There's no two ways about it. I'm going to say that the Bucs will pull out this division.
Wow. JP?
I actually think the Falcons' offense is is way too good not to win this division. So I'm going with the Falcons.
You got to keep an eye on the Falcons because they lost the architect of that offense. He's out in San Francisco this year. We'll see if that has any impact whatsoever. All right, wild cards, 2 of them. Let's start with Nick.
I got the Bucs as one of the wild cards. I think they're going to take a step forward, but I also have the Eagles as a wild card. I'm a big Carson Wentz fan. I like it that they got Alshon Jeffrey and Torrey Smith, and I like that Jim Schwartz is their D coordinator. He's really good.
Okay, Paulie?
Got Dallas and New Orleans coming out. I think New Orleans takes a step forward this year. I don't know why. Adrian Peterson goes nuts.
Okay. And Shanks his son again.
He is on Isogenic. Anthony, who do you got?
Well, the Giants are one team, and then I'm really torn on the other side between the Falcons and the Eagles. But I don't see Atlanta taking that big of a step back. I think the Eagles miss it in the tiebreaker.
Eagles, Jesus. They're nowhere near it. JP.
Whoever doesn't win the NFC East, in this case, it's going to be the Giants, and I would probably say the Panthers or the Bucs. I'll go with the Bucs.
Okay. I got the Cowboys and the Falcons. Quick Super Bowl predictions. We're not going to do any analysis on it whatsoever because it's absolute nonsense to try to do at this point. Give me the 2 teams you think are going to be in the Super Bowl and who's going to win it. Nick.
Seahawks over Steelers.
Paul.
Packers over Patriots.
JP.
Patriots over Giants.
Anthony.
Fuck the Patriots. I'm going to just completely go off the map here and say the Bucs over the Raiders.
Oh, please!
Stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Wow.
I have a revisiting of everybody's favorite Super Bowl, the Giants over the Patriots. So we will post these predictions over at lowandoutside.com. You can find it under the National Football League section within the sports section.
Oh, should I give you my real prediction then if you're posting it?
So it is written and so it is said.
Sean, who you got? Alabama versus
LSU, baby.
Sean, do you have a Super Bowl pick or you don't care?
Not one. Don't give a shit.
Okay.
And no one's listening to the show anymore anyway.
All
You
right,
guys rambled on this bullshit.
get the hell out of the National Football League. And let's segue into our low and outside college football expert, Sean. Sean, college football kicked off last week. A lot of stuff went down, but the most important part of that weekend, from my perspective, was the meeting of two icons. One, the level-headed professional individual who was there to do a job and did it well, and then Yampo, who was just a drunk New Jersey asshole who just, fled down upon Atlanta. First of all, how did the meeting go? The long-awaited face-to-face between you and Yampo.
It started out a lot like the second half, or at least the closing drives of the Florida State-Alabama game, which is ironic. Went a little something like punt, 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 interception, end of game. He called and texted me probably 300 times until I gave in so I can make it stop. I showed up, saw him. We caught the tail end of the Washington-Rutgers game. Joni said she was tired, and then we split.
My favorite part of the entire thing, as we peel back the curtain just a little bit for the listening audience, is on the text thread on the group chat. He was like, "Come and meet Sean. Beers on me." And you're like, "I like how you're trying to entice a guy who works for a beer company to buy him beers to meet up." Like, that was the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
So we actually, at the bar, I ordered a round. He's like, "It's on me. It's on me." I was like, "Yampo, I don't pay for these things. Like it's not a big deal." He was emphatic to buy me a beer. That's how badly. That's how bad I did. That's how badly he wanted to meet up.
So funny.
It was like 14-year-old like girl texts. I'll let him defend himself.
You should have had him buy you a Blue Label.
Did he send you like a heart emoji?
Yeah, there. I will say there was no follow-up text of like, "Hey, great meeting you, man. Hope we can hang out again."
Oh my god!
Swipe left.
I don't know what you want out of this.
Time.
I do find it interesting that he was all hell bent on launching the Low and Outside Sport Snapchat, and proceeded to just basically have pictures of his face and random videos of people that he was at a party with that no one knew and he didn't talk to. He would scan the room. It was bizarre.
But he would tell you it was lit.
It was not lit. I'm not gonna lie to you. The Turn 2 Snapchat, totally lit. The Low and Outside Snapchat right now, not so lit. Not so lit. All right, so let's break down college football. Give us the rundown from your perspective, and then we'll pepper you with some questions.
Yeah, I put this week probably akin to Nick's puberty years. It was a late bloomer, but things ended up sorting themselves out.
Right. And it also coincided with last week, so that's good.
Yeah, very much so. No, hey, it made a pretty good case for the NFL preseason. The good teams, we can run down, but like Ohio State, Indiana. Ohio State didn't show up till the second half. Washington, Rutgers. Washington was thankful to get 2 late scores to end up sneaking one out.
Did we get the Rutgers hot tub herpes count?
I'm sorry. Where was this? Where was that game played? At what university?
Rutgers.
Thank you.
There you go. Michigan, Florida was kind of sloppy, to be honest. Michigan ended up pulling that one out, and USC held off Western Michigan. The games were sloppy. I think that's kind of what you get. We've talked about it on this show quite a bit on like, does the preseason matter? I think everything worked itself out, like I mentioned up front, but like that shouldn't have to happen in the first half of these games. I think if this was last year, there would have been a lot more upsets. Last year, there was a lot of bigger games being played in week 1. I don't think you saw too much of that this year, but they're still fun. I love college football. I think it's a lot more fun than the NFL. I've made that pretty clear. The comeback games, I think, were incredible. There were some crazy ones. If you tuned in on Sunday or Monday night, the Tennessee-Georgia Tech game was incredible. Went into double overtime. Definitely check out the highlights on that. And then the UCLA-Texas A&M game.
Phenomenal.
UCLA came back 42-10. And ended up winning with like a few seconds left off of the fake spike play. That's like that epitomizes college football to me. But
epitomizes the New York Jets.
Fun.
Yeah, I remember that. I was in the womb.
Sean, is Rosen gonna be wearing green and white next year? I don't even know if he's eligible. Like, I don't even know if he could actually come out.
Well,
but
apparently he doesn't go to class. So
the fourth quarter that he had, is one of folklore at this point, right?
Yeah. No, it's just a blast to watch that stuff. The fact that can even like happen is a little ridiculous in its own right, and that's why you probably guys talk about the NFL the way you do. But like that to me is so much fun. That is March Madness in college football.
Here's my only issue with college football, because I make no bones that I'm a bigger NFL guy than a college football guy, and this is where I need you to help me out throughout the year. Because I had sent you a text and said, tell me your sport for this week, because I really want to buy, but I want to know why. There's just so many teams, and so that's what makes it difficult for me. Like in the NFL, I don't have to watch the bottom half of the league unless they're my team. But in college football, like I need to pay attention to like 30 teams every week. And so I find it difficult to remember who's where, because these guys, they don't hang around forever.
I don't think you need to pay attention to every game. I think you need to be knowledgeable, at least, so as things move around. There's probably only 5 games that a weekend that I'm sitting down and like really tuning into. I'll flip back through a lot, but like there's probably only 5 or so that I'm like, I gotta make sure I tune into those. Can
we do this? And this is totally...
Hold on, Jeff. One second. You had just said there's so many teams, but like, isn't that what makes March Madness fun? That's kind of like the big part of it, that anything can happen on any given weekend. When you go through, there's a ton of teams. Maybe you know a little, maybe you know a lot, but in the same sense, like it's still a blast to watch.
All right, so 2 things. That's part of what makes March Madness fun. The biggest part of what makes March Madness fun is
Coors Light.
Is the Coors Light. Is the
turn 2 bracket.
The crunched down time frame that occurs, right? So you're playing these games, and sometimes they're back to back.
And a belly to belly. JP.
And they're in a really tight time frame. That's to me what makes it awesome, is you could have a team play on Friday and then turn around and play on Sunday and have 2 awesome games. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying. So what I'd like to do, if we can, if you're up for it, is you said there's a maximum probably about 5 games a weekend that you really need to keep an eye on. If you can give us those 5 games each, that's gonna help. That's gonna help me, because I want to know which games I should actually be paying attention to.
Yeah, and that's a good start. I think you also, like, the best thing to do is like get out to a game, not a Rutgers game, but like if you go to the Southeast, you will, like, it is a lifestyle. It is like 10 times more passionate than the NFL. So I would encourage you to do that. But
I'll agree with you on that, by the way. I'll agree with you on that.
It is totally different. Thanks, JP. Looking into this coming week, definitely sleep in, mow your lawn, go to the store, do whatever you got to do in the morning, because the good games aren't starting until a little later, 3:30 Eastern. Pitt-Penn State won't be a great game, but it's a black eye on Penn State from last year, so it'll be interesting to see how physical and how much they really try to blow out Pitt. It is a 22.5 point spread. I would take it, and I think they're going to really, really take some lessons learned from last year and try to run up scores, because that one burned them last year. Notre Dame, Georgia is interesting just because I'm not really sure what's going to happen. Georgia lost their quarterback this week, which is unfortunate. Notre Dame is just kind of a funky team who played Temple, who's actually not as bad as people think they are, but you really don't know what you're going to get in here, and I think that's what's kind of exciting. I think it'll be a little bit of an ugly game, but Notre Dame's giving 4.5. I would take Georgia.
It's amazing how Notre Dame could be unranked and like nobody gives them any love. They beat a Temple team that they should have beat. Whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, they should have beaten them. But then Georgia, are they the 15th ranked team in the country right now?
I think they were a little lower on that. I forget off the top of my head.
So they're now favored over the 15th ranked team, which is.
Hey, Sean, let me ask you a question about Notre Dame. How did they go from unranked to ranked from week 1 playing? I mean, was it them destroying Temple, or was it their 4-8 record last season that qualified them to be in the top 25? Or is it just that they're Notre Dame, like as in usual, every year it seems somehow they find their way into the top 25, regardless of how bad or good their team is?
Yeah, you'd probably make the same argument about Texas too, right? Like, did they necessarily deserve to be on the tail end of that? I didn't see a ton of the games on the bottom end of the top 25 to really say how they sit one way or the other, but I do think your latter point makes a ton of sense. They're always going to be in the mix from a recruiting standpoint, same thing as Texas, so I think that helps. They've got a little bit of I don't want to say they've got a bunch of veterans, but they've got enough that comes back. I'm not a big Notre Dame guy this year or in the past years. It's just we talked about the last time they trip over the finish line. I wouldn't expect much out of them. I would take 4.5 from a Georgia team that is missing their starting quarterback.
I'm with you.
Hey, we agree. JP and I. This guy's got to come on the show more often.
Yeah, but here's my question, right? You talked about Georgia losing their quarterback. Florida State loses their quarterback too, and I know that they were playing against what's arguably the best team in the country. How the hell are they still ranked in the top 10?
Well, that just goes down to a 1 versus 3 playing each other. That's a hard thing for you to say, like, oh, you got a loss on your record from Bama. I think that'll be true with anybody Bama plays. You're not going to get a bad drop from something like that. Now, what I will say is Florida State with DeAndre Francois or not was sloppy. Their special teams were awful. They looked ugly. I think if they could have patched up special teams, that game was very close. Like, their offense was really good. Bama's defense was really good. I thought Bama's offense was a little slower than usual, but I think, to answer your question, I don't think they drop out of the top 10 just by the sheer fact that they played Alabama.
So when they redo the rankings, they're paying no mind to the fact that they lost their quarterback then, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So
Correct.
Realistically, if they were to go out and have another L,
you're going to see that happen. Yeah, that will snowball.
Okay.
So a few more games for you to check out. Clemson giving 4.5 to Auburn. That one will be fun. That'll be an exciting offensive game to watch. Oklahoma, Ohio State is definitely the one getting the most promo. That'll be the ESPN or ABC rather night game. We talked about Ohio State a little earlier. They bloomed late and showed really, like in that second half against Indiana, that they could for sure be a number 2 team in the country, but it came late. They're definitely going to have a tough test against a seasoned Oklahoma team. And that one will for sure be a fun one to watch. And the last one I would just say is USC Stanford. I think USC had an interesting challenge with Western Michigan. They're really hyped. I hyped them. I still hype them because I think they've got a lot of skill position guys. But Stanford's going to prove to be a tough team. That's a 6.5 point spread. I think USC ends up taking that, but I think it'll be closer than a lot of people think.
JP, who's Rutgers got this week?
Rutgers is playing Eastern Michigan.
Who
cares?
No, I'm serious. Who do they have this week?
I should have known. No, they're playing Eastern Michigan this week, and they should be fine. I'm highly encouraged after that Washington game. So
home or there?
Home.
So
Home against D2. There you go.
Sean, here's the question, because JP, big Rutgers guy,
I see that.
He's highly encouraged after last week. Should he be?
Honestly, I didn't watch enough of the game. I was just enthralled in conversation with Yampo that I didn't get a good look at how they were looking. So I will also abstain from that one.
You couldn't see past his big dome, is what you're trying to get at.
The glare off his bald head was tough to remove my eyes from.
And his brow sweat and his erection.
Many distracting factors.
But he bought you drinks, which is good. It's nice.
Yeah.
Jay,
they're going to be free one way or the other.
Why are you excited after last week? What did you see? I mean, aside from my opinion, Washington not looking as good as everybody thought they were going to look, rather than Rutgers looking good. What has you encouraged?
Well, you and I were having a little bit of a text conversation during the game a little bit, and one of the things that struck me early in the first half, and yes, granted, Washington did come out slow, but in the first half, outside of the one long passing play which set up a field goal, Rutgers held Washington to, I think it's like 38 yards outside of that one big play. Now, there's slow starts, and then there's looking at a stat like that along with 20 minutes of time of possession with an offense that did absolutely nothing last year. I think you're seeing the Jerry Kill effect in the offense, and it's good coaching breeds good play, especially in college football. Obviously there is a situation where you want to have as much talent and as much depth as possible in college football. And that's one of the things going down the stretch that Rutgers is going to have a problem with is you're only in year 2 of the Ash era. There's no depth behind the skill players right now. So the depth when they get into the heart of the Big Ten schedule is going to kill them. I think
you think the non-Big Ten games that are going to be games that are winnable?
I honestly, after watching the Nebraska game, I actually think the Nebraska game is going to be a lot closer than a lot of people expect. Tell me if I'm wrong there, Sean. I mean, I don't know if you watched any of the Nebraska game or caught any of the glimpses of that, but Nebraska looked very beatable this year and very vulnerable.
Yeah, they got a tough one this week against Oregon too. Like Oregon's on a little bit of a bounce back. I don't think you're going to see too much, but they're going to get beat up. Nebraska is.
And I mean, and as far as Rutgers' schedule is concerned with the Big Ten West, I mean, their crossover games are Nebraska, and then they have at Illinois and home to Purdue. So, I mean, two of those games are very, very easy, are definitely beatable. Nebraska now looks like it could be. So, I mean, at that point, you're looking at a feasible season in year 2 of a complete overhaul and rebuild. So,
I got a great Purdue story, right? So my buddy Mike coaches basketball at a high school level, right? And he was coaching a really, really good wide receiver a number of years ago, who also played basketball. So the time came, it was during basketball season. He was being heavily recruited. And Bobby Bowden went to the kid's house and sat down and was like, here's what's going to happen. And he drew the offensive line, and he drew the receiver split out to the side. And this is they had just come off of winning a national title, right? Florida State. And he goes, the first play of the year, we're going to drop back and we're going to throw an 85-yard touchdown to you. That's going to be our first play of the year, right? So Bobby Bowden sitting in this kid's kitchen, and that's the phrase he gives him, right? So he gets a free ride offer to Florida State, and he gets a free ride offer to Purdue to play with Drew Brees at the time, right? So he's talking to my buddy Mike, and he's like, I don't know, it's a tough call. I got Purdue, I got Florida State, and I got Syracuse. They've all offered me free rides. My buddy goes, first of all, he goes, Syracuse is out. Like, you're not going to Syracuse. Like, what are you, out of your mind? He goes, you're either going to go play with Drew Brees, who might win the Heisman Trophy, or you're going to go play for a national championship with Bobby Bowden in your kitchen. What'd the kid do? He went to fucking Syracuse. He went to fucking Syracuse, and they ran like the wing T for his entire college career. He ended up catching on for a little while in the NFL. But it just goes to show you, like, the right place at the right time. Those decisions are huge. You got some really good athletes that just, it depends on where you pick. College football is a strange gamble like that.
Yeah, I love Jerry Kill. I think he's doing great things for you guys.
You love who?
Jerry Kill.
Fuck off.
I was serious. I didn't hear what you said. But
you had an echo. You had an echo.
Yeah.
Jerry Kill. I think Jerry Kill's great, and I also think you're probably moving into an era, hopefully, that reminds you a little bit of Schiano.
Yeah, I agree with you a little bit with that, and I think it's I think Jerry Kill is going to be a enormous influence on Chris Ash moving forward. I think Ash has a good idea of what he wants to do with the program, and I think a guy like Kill, who's got all that experience as a head coach all over the place, him coming in as an offensive coordinator, I honestly believe that he could probably win a game in his decisions alone this year, which is something you couldn't even fathom last year when you were throwing the ball 3 and out and your defense was on the field for literally 80% of the plays. You get halfway through the season, you're talking, you're talking dead legs in week 6.
Good point.
I think there was a point last NFL season where we talked about the Cleveland Browns for way too long. This has gone on a little.
The one last point I'll make to you, JP, on Rutgers that you can get excited about is that those things plus playing those schools at home, bringing in Ohio State this year, you're going to be able to keep some New Jersey talent in Rutgers, which helps.
Yep.
The only good thing about playing Ohio State at home is that you won't be able to tell which red is rooting for what team. That's the only that has to go with the Ohio State.
Because you get Scotty Farrell coming into your house.
Hey now,
hot with an Ohio State jersey on. My brother has an Ohio State jersey with Farrell written across the back.
Yes, he does.
How bad is that?
Awful. It's like he's.
What do you mean? JP's got like 4 of those Rutgers jerseys.
He's wearing one right now.
The difference is he can probably play there. JP writing for loanoutside.com this week. His featured article every week leads up to what's been going on, maybe accompanied by a video of a tailgate. It's called I'm Still Chopping. Check that each and every week.
JP, get in that freaking hot tub, will you?
Whatever.
Hang on.
All right,
Put it on Snapchat.
Let's talk about one last thing before I go to last call. Is today, early this morning, for the New York sports radio crowd. I don't know if this became a national story. It's enormous here in New York, and it just can't be ignored. Craig Carton, who's the #1 sports radio show in New York, one half of Boomer and Carton, was led out of his house in handcuffs, not by the NYPD, but by the FBI this morning. For running what appears to be an alleged ticket scam operation, upwards of $5.5 million worth of fraudulent activity. He faces the possibility of basically the rest of his life in prison. So my question to you is, before we get anywhere, I have 2 questions. One, is there any doubt on this panel that if anybody involved in this show is most likely to be caught up in that, it's Yampo? Is there any doubt that that's wrong? Anybody?
No, that's right.
It's pretty
unanimous
on that. Okay, so and then number 2.
I don't know, Nick with the young kids. I don't know. I could see some.
He is eager.
No way. Number 2. What is the number? Like, we're not going to get into it like actual dollar figures, but percentage of your salary, right? Because he was making $250,000 a year to go on the radio every day and talk about sports.
That's 4 hours.
That was his job, right? He had to work
4 hours, 20 hours a week,
and talk about sports, right? Made $250,000. So for what was it? What does that work out to be? Math guy Paul, right? If he's $5 million is what the scam was, and he makes $250 million a year, what's that percentage of his salary? We're talking 20 times his salary. Is that accurate?
20 times his salary.
So take your salaries, whatever they are on this panel. If you could do some fraudulent activity to make 20 times your salary, would you do it? Run the risk of 40 years in prison?
No.
Depends what you're talking about doing.
Oh, here we go.
How fraudulent?
No, I'm just how fraudulent. I mean, like you just like something that stupid is meaningless. If you were going to get into some like big time Madoff shit, then like yeah, fuck whatever. But no, the answer is no. Sorry, the answer is no.
No, don't even use Madoff as like an example because like the thing that surprised me was like Madoff happened right in New York City, like it was right in front of Craig's eyes. Like he saw all this happening, and he's stupid enough to fall into some ticket scam. Like I don't understand what benefit he thought was going to come with that.
Well,
it's very easy. And keep in mind, I worked 9 years in radio, 4 years in college, and 5 years in New York, and I can tell you that running ticket scams is something that's probably very easy to do when it comes to being at a radio station. Now, that's because you got stuff in the prize closet. You can do whatever you want with that stuff. But aside from that, this is a guy who had gambling debts. So he got into that kind of shit. And he had to bail himself out. But, I mean, when you're talking about, this Madoff stuff, $5 million isn't a whole lot of money. What are you going to risk your life for $5 million, which you could spend in half a minute?
So I was actually going to make a point about that. Like $250K in New York is actually like it turns out to be a lot less in the end. So like,
I don't think he's only making $250. I think that's just what he's getting from the fan. I think he's got syndication fees in there. I think he's probably closer to $1 million a year than $250K a year.
Well, I'll put it to you this way: if he was closer to $1 million a year, and he threw it all the way,
no.
And still, how bad do you have to be at betting to fucking accumulate a $3 million?
He probably has a problem.
Yeah.
I think on the complaint he had, because I kind of glazed through the complaint. He had like $250K at one casino and like $350K at another casino.
And they always had those promos at the casino, so who knows what he was doing those nights and stuff.
Look, I can tell you, I've been to Vegas like 9 times, and every time Antoine Walker was at a table in Caesars while I was there. That's a guy having a lot more money than Craig Carton.
9.
So
we need Yampo for this.
Times.
I mean,
9 times.
We know Yampo engages in some betting activities, and he's got some deep pockets.
Yeah,
we've seen half his arm dug into his deep pockets during his real estate videos.
Whenever the money line changes midway through the game, he places another bet.
I mean, he was throwing around drinks, beers like crazy this weekend. Just who wants one?
Boomer and Yampo in the morning.
This is so stupid.
Replace one ball guy with another.
To get caught up in something like that is just dumb.
Especially with a family. I mean, he's got like 4 kids.
Yeah, 4 kids. They're like young.
One of them's named Lucky, and it's not even a bit. Like he named his kid Lucky.
Wow.
Not anymore.
Isn't one of his bits saying "lock it up" too?
Yeah. That's
where's some irony.
That's real.
They used to call him on the radio show the Great Cartini. Like he was like some like prodigy with gambling and stuff.
Moment of the day.
It's gonna be his nickname in a whole different way. Hey.
Oh boy.
Anthony, my question is in the prize closet, do you have to knock over the Mr. Leonard doll before you can get to the jingle ball?
Well, you've got to make your way around his lime green Pinto, and then eventually you can get to the good stuff in the back.
Yuck, whatever. All right, last call. Anything we've got that we have not touched on? Let's start with Anthony, make our way down the line to Sean. Anything that we didn't mention?
Yeah, the Jets offense is officially saved. Huge signing in the free agency period just yesterday. Jeremy Curley is back, baby.
So we should be prepared for an entire season of fair catches.
Yes, absolutely.
JP, what do you got?
I look forward to standing in the concourse the whole season during the Jets games. Yeah, I got nothing.
So do I.
You know where to find me, Jeff. Come on up.
Anything else?
Cove, I might be able to take those Carolina Panthers tickets off you.
Which tickets?
Panthers.
From
Carolina.
Did it matter what game he said? You were going to give them to him no matter what.
I don't give things away, all right? I sell them for higher than face value so I can never mind.
Sounds like my ex-wife.
Hey-o. Niggy.
I'm excited for some Yankees playoff baseball. Hope it's going to happen.
Baseball's right around the corner. Paul?
2 quick things. One, obscure college score of the week. I want to give a shout out to my brother, the new D coordinator at WPI. They pitched a 48-0 shutout in their opening game.
Nice.
And also loyal turn 2 / low and outside listener Bobby Humphrey, who was one of the 11 participants in our brackets last year, is getting married this weekend, and I plan on being blackout drunk at his wedding.
All right.
Fantastic.
I would take WPI plus 10 over Rutgers.
Here we go.
I have two comments on what you've got there. So please tell me that at some point the Humpty dance is going to be played at this guy's wedding.
Humphrey. But yeah, why not?
Right. And 2, WPI sounds more like the investment firm that Craig Carton. Sean, what do you got? Close us out.
My boy JT Justin Thomas with another win in golf, baby. The FedEx playoffs and championship are coming around the corner. Should be fun to watch.
Nice.
Give it to me. Go ahead. Hit me with the who cares. I know you.
These hot guys.
No, I hit you with the these hot guys, not a who.
Yeah. No, that's his 4th win of the season. He's killing it. To be young and hot.
Is he still sponsored by Natty Light?
No.
Ah.
You still got to work on that.
Dude, he's a Coors Light guy. That's how I know him.
Oh, okay. Then I'm just not paying attention. Follow us on all social media right now. We are at Low Outside Sport, and you can find us on our website, lowandoutside.com. If you or anyone else you think would be a valuable member to the Low and Outside community, if you're a blogger, if you're a podcaster or anything like that that you think fits with the ridiculous humor that you're hearing here, hit us up, and we'll make it happen.
This is the only show that uses its own airtime to try and get people to listen and work for us.
Hey, whatever it takes.
Come on. Hang on.
All right. That's all we got for this week. So take it easy, everybody.
Later.
We'll catch you next week.
Desperandum, dear lady. In the desert lies the promised land. Goodbye, Mrs. Blue. Adieu. Auf Wiedersehen. Gesundheit. Farewell.
Fare thee well to you, my own true love. River Mercy, fare thee well. I am bound for California, a place that I know right well. So fare thee well, my own true love. When I return united we will be. It's not the leaving of Liverpool that's grieving me, but my darling, when I think of thee. Now I signed on a Yankee Clipper ship. Davy Crockett is the name, and the captain's name it is Burgess, and they say that she's a floating shame. So farewell, my own true love. When I return united we will be. It's not the leaving of Liverpool that's grieving me, but my darling, when I think of thee. Now I sailed with Burgess once before, and I think that I know him well. If a man's a sailor, he will get along. If he's not, then he's sure in hell. So farewell, my own true love. When I return united we will be. It's not the leaving of Liverpool that's grieving me, but my darling, when I think of thee. All right, Gio. Sun is on the harbor, love. Oh, I wish that I could remain, for I know that it will be a long, long time before I see you again. So farewell, my own true love. When I return united we will be. It's not the leaving of Liverpool that's grieving me, My darling, when I think of thee. One more time. So farewell, my own true love. When I return united we will be. It's not the leaving of Liverpool that's bringing me. My darling, when I think of thee.
Well, my hangover's gone and I'm thirsty for more.